Apple introduced the latest iteration of the iMac last May, and everyone cheered in unison.
As the kids like to say, you're just a biatch! Get off that phone!
Okay, not exactly. I guess the best way to describe the initial reaction was mixed. I didn't pick one up at launch because I was already really happy with my Mac Mini, and I had a monitor and keyboard already, but I was browsing Apple's Refurbished website recently and figured I'd finally check one out. Why?
I'm Spider-Man.
Okay, not that, but let's see what we got. My refurbished unit showed up and holy crap, this box is huge. And I gotta say, even though it's a refurbished unit, the box is still really high quality and it even has a cloth handle. It even opens up like the regular retail box. Anyways, digging into the box, it's got everything you need to get going and dive right in. We have the main computer, a color-matched new Magic Keyboard, a Magic Mouse, a laughably huge power brick, a nice color-matched braided power cable, and a braided USB-C to Lightning cable for charging the keyboard and the mouse. I got silver, but the other colors look pretty cool. This is my first time using the Magic Keyboard and Magic Mouse, and for the most part, I really like them. The keyboard is really nice, and it's the first with a built-in Touch ID sensor, which makes logging in super fast and easy. If you have multiple users, you can each scan a fingerprint and everyone can log in easily without needing a password. Like a lot of other things on this machine, the Touch ID feature is only included with the higher price model, which we'll touch on in a bit. It's a really compact keyboard, which I'm a fan of, and it has a rechargeable battery that you can charge with the included cable. The key travel is pretty good, it's decent, and it's a nice typing experience. Now the Magic Mouse on the other hand is just okay. This is the same one that's been around forever and it's not terrible, but I see why so many people don't like it. It's kind of small and hard touch on the top and has these weird plastic rails on the bottom, so it doesn't glide very smoothly without a mouse pad. But I really do like the capacitive touch area on the front for quick scrolling. You can upgrade this to the Magic Trackpad, but it's $50 extra. I've never used that, so I don't know if I can recommend it. But what's awesome about these being included is you just turn on the computer, turn on the accessories, and you're up and running in no time. Now let's talk about the computer. It comes in two main configurations, with the difference being a 7 or 8 core GPU. They both have the 8 core CPU, but the more expensive version upgrades the keyboard to Touch ID, adds 2 more USB-C ports, and adds an Ethernet port. So this really is an all-in-one unit with a 24-inch 4.5K screen. There's a nice metal base and the screen can tilt back and forth a little bit, but there's no side-to-side or vertical adjustments. On the back here, there's 2 Thunderbolt 4 USB-C ports and 2 regular USB-C ports. As I said, this is only on the more expensive model, and the cheaper model only has the 2 Thunderbolt ports, which is kind of ridiculous. Why?
How exactly does the sun set? How exactly does a positrack rear end on a Plymouth work? It just does.
There's also a headphone jack on the left side of the unit, and that's it on the ports. Look, I know you can't put an HDMI on this due to the thickness, but they should have included a dongle or something. There's also an Ethernet port on the power brick of the more expensive models, but not on the cheaper ones. So the build is really nice. It feels really solid and has a nice little bit of weight to it, but it's not too heavy to move around if you need to. I think the most divisive thing about these new iMacs was the chin on the front, and yeah, it's really big. It's color matched to the system you buy, but they really could have shrunk this down as the motherboard doesn't take up much space at all in the system. But I will say, after using it for a few weeks, you don't really notice it in day-to-day use. All models also have the white bezel. That looks okay, but black probably would have looked pretty good too. Oh, and the power plug on the back connects magnetically, and it's really nice. Firing up the unit and going through setup is your typical Apple, but once you've got it running, the screen quality really jumps out at you first. It's just an LED screen, so nothing fancy like the mini LED on the MacBook Pros, but everything looks really sharp on the 24-inch screen, and dark colors don't look crushed. Watching content is very enjoyable with the built-in 6-speaker system, and Netflix shows and YouTube really jump out at you. The speakers get really loud and have a little bit of bass, but they're not going to replace external desktop speakers. But for built-in speakers, they are way above average. By now, everyone is pretty familiar with the kind of performance you can get with the M1 chip, so I won't go into it too much. I use it with Final Cut Pro to edit 4K videos, browse the internet, watch videos, and it never really seems to break a sweat. The higher price model does come with 2 fans built in, and I still haven't heard them ramp up. It runs pretty much whisper quiet while in use. Of course, if you're already tied into the Apple ecosystem with an iPhone or iPad, you're going to get even more out of this all-in-one system. Geekbench on this machine gives you pretty much identical results to the Mac Mini because they are using the same M1 chip that's been around since late 2020. I'm sure people are sick of hearing about this chip, but I think when you use one, you understand what all the hype was about. They're just so capable with a low power draw. I'm not a power user by any means, but this thing just flies through all the programs I need it to. Does it have occasional hang-ups or loading screens? Sure, but it's really few and far between compared to my usual Windows machines. I plan to use this for video editing in Final Cut Pro, but you should probably research if your specific program needs are compatible with the Mac. For example, I'm pretty sure Autodesk programs like Inventor don't work with the M1 still. The front camera is 1080p and seems to be a step up from previous versions. It doesn't have center stage like the newest iPad mini, but it's still pretty clear. It's not great, but it should be just fine with FaceTime calls, Zoom meetings, or anything like that. So let's talk final verdict. Price-wise, it's actually not a bad deal when you factor in the price of a similar standalone monitor and all the peripherals. I got it cheaper buying refurbished, and looking now, there seems to be a few available pretty much all the time. Given Apple's refurbished qualities, I have no issues recommending any of their used products as they will pretty much appear brand new and they come with the same 1-year warranty as buying new. Another reason to pick this up is it's pretty much plug and play. It's an all-in-one package and has everything you would need to hit the ground running. This compared to the Mac Mini, which would still require you to add a monitor, keyboard, and mouse. You would also lose the speakers and the camera if you went that route. That being said, this is definitely going to be a system more suited to your average user who doesn't care or doesn't want to fool with buying each component separately. One last thing to keep in mind is that there are a lot of rumors about a new upgraded 27-inch iMac that could be coming out later this year. If you feel like the 24-inch screen may not be big enough, or if you want a more powerful system, you may want to hold out for that. But with all that being said, this thing is great and has earned a permanent spot on my desk. Anyways, that's all I've got for today. I really appreciate you watching, and if you want to subscribe, I'd appreciate it.